Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about the Silent Hill 2 remake. This is going to be my spoiler review. I'm going to be talking about the good, the mixed, and then the bad of the game. And then at the very end I'll give my rating out of 10. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Firstly, gorgeous game. It's an interesting setting where, you think it's a foggy city and it's like run down and all you're doing is like walking or jogging around and there's these like sort of meat monsters and stuff like that going around. It's like, it doesn't seem like an interesting premise, but with all the detail that they have and the subtleties with the animation or the lighting especially, probably some of the best lighting I've seen in a game. And I don't necessarily mean in terms of like a sunset piercing through the clouds or something like that, like that would be in Horizon Forbidden West or something like that, but more so just like you have the flashlight that's like in your jacket, and the way that interacts with everything, because you use it for the majority of the game because it is a very dark game, and like literally, and the amount of reflection, whether it's like puddles on the ground or cracks in the wall, if it was like painted or not, or if it's like brickwork or anything like that, it is so intricately detailed. And I know it's like a very small, mundane thing to sort of point out, but you gotta play it and just look at the amount of detail to just appreciate it. And this wasn't a like AAA game budget or anything. They put nearly a decade into this game, I believe. Definitely over 8 years, I'm pretty sure. And they really got their money's worth, and you could just tell the amount of detail that was put into it. And talk about, putting in detail. The detail to the story. So firstly, this is a remake. I haven't played the original, but I did watch a Let's Play and I have watched a lot of comparisons to this new one. And man, this is probably the best remake of all time. Not even joking. It pays a lot of respect to the original with like the locations that you look at, and it sort of goes all staticky and plays a note. Because that's like a direct location from like a one-for-one almost of the original game. And the interesting thing with that is it actually kind of sets up a loop theory, because there's a whole bunch of things, like especially the bit at the top of, I believe it was the hospital, when Pyramid Head in the original game throws you off the balcony or the top roof, and it like sort of breaks the gate or the fence that's there. You can kind of look at it as a bit of a purgatory for James, and it's a bit of a loop cycle, and until he like accepts it or actually moves on or completes what he should be doing, he's stuck there, because that's kind of how the game starts. He's like in a bit of a sort of, stuck mentality and a bit sort of disillusioned with reality in a way. When it comes to Mary, at least. So just so many things like that. And again, it's so faithful. Like all the designs are like very faithful or improved upon, like Maria's design. Like I much prefer the new design for that. But all of them are translated so like just faithfully, while adding new detail and new depth. And that's exactly what you'd want in a remake. Not to mention the combat and just, again, the camera work, way better than the original. Not knocking the original game, I know it's fantastic for its time. I'm just more so just praising just how good of a remake this is, that it really exceeded just all my expectations. I was expecting a fair bit from this game, and I was still blown away. So majorly impressed. And again, just talking about more about how gorgeous this game is, you look at the buildings. There's so many different settings, from like the prison to the hotel at the very end, to the apartments near the start, and just all that. And the apartment complex, when you go into like the central area where it's open and you look up at all the stories and like the sky and everything, I was stunned, to be honest. I wasn't expecting to find beauty in places like I did in the game. And like just looking around the room, I'm like, man, you just see like the sort of puddles. And I really love the section in the hospital when you see the very yellow lighting coming through the windows, and just stuff like that, man. It's just fantastic. I just love it. So another thing I want to praise this game for is it's just a very refreshing kind of game for me to play. It's my first proper horror game that I've ever played all the way through that's like a full-on like story sort of driven game like this. And it was challenging in ways, and I had to like adjust to like sort of being frustrated in a good way, because it is meant to be difficult and you are meant to be paranoid and all and stressed out in situations and stuff like that. And it was just very refreshing. Also, the sound design is impeccable. Literally, you go into any space, there's like so many subtle sounds and things that really add to the atmosphere and paranoia. And the music as well. The music is phenomenal, gorgeous. The original game had such a beautiful soundtrack, and this one I thought improved upon it, added a bunch more new songs that I felt fit in really well. Just, it's a visual treat. It's like an auditory treat. Just every element of this game, dude. It's just so fantastic. And then you got to talk about the endings, and there's actually 2 new endings. I believe it's the stillness ending, and I don't remember what the other one was, but all of them are obviously again faithful to the original. I actually really loved the space ending, where Space James, aka PS2 James, comes down and talks to you and like swaps places with you. I'm like, well, that was so freaking hilarious. And I mean, also kind of adds to the loop theory. So you know, you can consider that part of the theory to make that canon. And it's also just a fantastic character study in a way of just like all these characters, but especially James, obviously. And there's so much poetry. Pyramid Head is used way better in this game. His scenes are a lot more purposeful. In the original, he's a slightly bit more random, and it's a bit more loose connections to James, because obviously he's meant to parallel James, because he's the only like masculine enemy in the game, mirroring yourself, especially in the scene where, you know, you carry his sword like through the leg wall and all that kind of stuff. And just so much psychological stuff with James's situation and how dark that is. And I don't know, just all of that, it was just fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed Pyramid Head much more in this game. And although he doesn't say anything, like his movements were like, felt a lot more intentional. Everything felt so intentional. And I just really, really appreciate when a game just takes itself so seriously and treats it like art. Because that's very much sort of how I see it. I see it as like an art piece, this kind of game. And then, yeah, that just leads into like the performances, like with James and Maria, Angela, Eddie. The casting was brilliant. Thoroughly enjoyed all the actors, really. The voice acting, like again, like when I go and compare it to the original, I'm like, damn, that actually, the original, a bit more rough than I remembered, and the new one just feels so right. Like it feels very natural, and that's what you want in a remake. You want to feel like, oh, this is what it was meant to be from the start, you know? And just bouncing off that with especially Eddie and his boss fight. Just all the boss fights, really, again, when you compare the combat to the original game, the combat is just leagues and leagues above. It's not like the best combat in like any game I've ever played, but it's rewarding enough, and like with dodging and hitting and the different weapons that you get, you know, you're thankful when you get a bullet, and you train yourself to like sort of, oh yeah, I'll probably use this, or I'll take out that enemy like that, or avoid those enemies altogether, stuff like that. It's you know, it's very thought-provoking, and it's not just like willy-nilly, oh yeah, run past and just do whatever. It's like, you can't always do that. And all the boss fights I thought were fantastic. Again, especially compared to the original. Like the very end boss fight at the very end of the game, and how that like breaks the layer as you fall down and everything. Just so, like, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time playing those. But the Eddie boss fight, you want to look at any comparison, look at the comparison between that and the first Pyramid Head fight. What on earth? And again, the dialogue was way better written compared to the original. It just felt like more natural, better placed, and I don't know, just really added just like so much quality to this game. Just every bit of attention to detail was just I'm saying brilliant like 50 times. Like I do understand that I'm saying that, but it's, what a game. And I'm not even done with the good that I'm talking about. So yeah, I just the last sort of thing is just like the metaphors in the game, with the puzzles that you have to do and how that relates to you and Mary, or James and Mary. And just when you look into like more of the details, you know, it's just they really understand the situation and the depth of the psychology that James would probably have and the guilt that he feels the whole time. And I played the game on normal difficulty, but the game does have easy and hard. So I was tempted to do easy, but I went with just normal, and you know, it was fine. I had enough challenge, but it wasn't like too difficult. But there is, you know, if you want it a bit easier, you can. If you want it a bit harder, you can. So I appreciate when there are difficulties in games for you to choose from. But that's mainly it for the good of the game, without, you know, doing a 5-hour essay. So now moving on to the mixed elements. So not too much in the mixed department. It's mainly just, in some areas I felt there were too many enemies, mainly in the prison area. It was like, I understand it was meant to be stressful, but it was like an annoying kind of stressful. Whereas like mostly every other part of the game felt like a good amount of sort of stressful, if that makes sense. So, but that was very minor, nitpicky, sort of nothing too dramatic there. And then a mixed element that I just think just someone new to the franchise should be aware of. It's a highly sensitive game in terms of topics, like very dark, serious topics about just all kinds of just dark stuff that you don't want to experience. And, you know, it might be too relatable for some people, or, you know, they might find it therapeutic, or they might find it triggering or something like that. That's just something to be aware of, so look at the classifications before you play the game. But yeah, that's kind of it. And some monsters are pretty grotesque as well. Some gross me out at times. So if you are squirmish and that, you know, just be aware of that going into this game. But yeah, it didn't gross me out too much where I got like stuck on any monster, or just, it's just all part of the experience really, but just be aware of that as well. And yeah, that's kind of it for the mix. Just, yeah, nothing really too much. Now moving on to the bad. So really the only bad I can ultimately think of is just that I don't have more. I want more. I want more merch. There's barely any merch for this game. There wasn't even like a deluxe edition or anything like that with like a statue or cool things here. There wasn't really anything. And the cosmetics that the game gives you, you needed to, I think, pre-order it digitally. And it gives you some cosmetics which aren't even that great. So I know it's a bit of a modern sort of complaint that's like, it's like, I'm not knocking the game for it, just would have been brownie points. Like if we could have chosen Maria to have her original outfit and James with like the patches on his jacket or something, and just other outfits and like cool cosmetics and stuff like that would have been cool to see. Just extra brownie points really. But yeah, and again, not really a negative, but I'd really like to see the Maria DLC. That would add a bit more to the game, since that was in the original as well. So that'd be cool, but yeah, that's kind of it. So my final rating for the game, I would give it a very safe and easy 9 out of 10. It's a very unique game that I've like never played before. So poetic, beautiful, tragic, dark, grim, paranoia-inducing ride of emotion and sadness. Brilliant, brilliant game. Bloober team did a fantastic job. They're the ones that developed the game. I'd really love to see them tackle another remake in the Silent Hill series. Either 1 or 3. I'm probably a little bit more interested in 3. But anyways, did you enjoy the game? Let me know what your favorite installment in the series is, or what you thought about the remake. Honestly, I'd probably say it's my game of the year. There's nothing else I'm really too interested in for the remainder of the year. And the only one that came sort of close was Echoes of Wisdom, that I played a couple weeks ago. And this is just a bit a step above that. So, didn't think a Silent Hill game would be above a Zelda game for me in a year. But here we are. So, yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Sorry if I sounded a bit too formal or something. I'm trying a bit of a new trajectory for the channel. A bit of a new name and identity, if you've noticed, for the very few people currently watching. But yeah, stay tuned for future videos. I'll see you guys next time.